So, hello Natalie.
Hello.
We're here to talk about the tale of love in darkness. My first question is pretty classic. Why did you choose this book of Amos Oz?
Well, I read the book almost 10 years ago when it came out in translation in English, and I was so moved by the story and related to it so much, I think because of all of the stories I had heard growing up about my grandparents moving to Palestine in the late 30s, and I felt like I had a visual imagination for the film.
The character of Fania, I felt like she looked like a Emma Bovary, an Israeli Emma Bovary. How would you interpret her sickness?
Well, I do feel that there is a level of depression and melancholia that would exist even if she was in different circumstances, even if she were in a country at peace and didn't have the sort of history that she has. She has sort of that sensibility in herself. But then, in addition, she has this sort of historical background that is so extreme. You know, at this particular moment in history where an entire country of, an entire continent of refugees, you know, came to the desert, basically. It's such a strange moment in history. So it sort of compounds that depression and that dreaminess.
The movie is really internal and contemplative. So, well, was it your will, when you read the book, or was it how you interpreted the book?
Yes, I feel that so much of film for me is mood and creating an ambiance, and the mood that he describes of this romantic melancholy was so familiar to me, and it's so interesting that it's cultural almost, that it's this sort of Slavic you know, trait. Maybe it exists in other cultures too, but I actually feel like there's a French romantic melancholy too, the like beautiful woman always kind of like being sad, looking out the window, yes, you know, aching.
I'm about right.
Yes. So it's interesting how it is sort of this culturally specific thing, and how that affects it. Like, how do the stories we're told when we're young affect how we are as adults, of course.
Your Hebrew is quite impressive.
Mm.
So the movie, was it always meant to be in Hebrew? Did the subject of making in English ever come up?
Yes, and in fact, yes, it was brought up a lot because, of course, Hebrew is only spoken by, 7-8 million people in the world. So it doesn't exactly make a huge audience for who would be able to understand it in the original language. But I do believe that it's almost a character in the film, and the language is so important to it and to the authenticity of the story, because it's the language of the place where the story takes place. So it was important to me to do it in Hebrew.
You mentioned earlier that as a woman, it was difficult at first to take decisions. Mm-hmm. Since we're feminist webzine, I was wondering, do you think that women, when they direct a movie, they have to direct a serious movie because they have to be taken seriously?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever thought about that. And actually, it's interesting because a lot of the women in the US who are sort of breaking into directing are actually doing comedy also. So I'm not sure. And I feel like here too, they also do. There are some great female directors who do lighter types of films too. So I don't know that there's a rule.
If you continue in the directing way, would you do another genre of movie? Or?
I don't know. I feel like I have a specific aesthetic that I like. I don't know. I would never want to limit myself by saying I'm only doing this, but yeah, I don't know that I'd be naturally tending towards any other genre.
What kind of advice would you give to young women to feel more confident about themselves?
Well, I think mainly not being very hard on yourself. I think to try and not be so self-critical, or be more forgiving of yourself.
If the audience were to remember one thing about your movie, would you prefer it as a director or as the actress that, because you're stars?
I hope as a director, I mean, because I think that includes sort of everything. I hope that, you know, that it speaks to people in different ways, because I think that's what you hope for as an artist, that the audience kind of meets you and brings their own experience to the film and takes away their own experience from the film.
And what did you learn about from this experience?
I learned many things. I did learn my own ability to express my desire. I learned that I can be calm in stressful situations.
And so Amos Oz saw your movie. Did he give you any feedback?
He was incredibly complimentary. I think it was hard for him because it's so personal. You know, of course it's him on screen. It's his life. It's his mother. But he was wonderful. He really loved it. So that was sort of the biggest relief of the experience.
The actor who's playing your son is brilliant in this movie. So how was it to shoot with him?
It was probably the luckiest part of the experience to find Amir Tesler, this child who plays Amos Oz. I didn't understand how we were going to find a kid who was smart enough and interesting enough to be Amos, and also who could play quite young and then also grow up. And it's amazing. He was 8 when we were filming, and he could look 6 sometimes. He could look 12 sometimes, and he had the maturity to go to be older or play younger. And he just had such strong instincts. Like, his first take was always the best take.
You also mentioned earlier that your inspirations were Terrence Malick and I forgot. I'm sorry. Yeah, oh my God, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But I saw in your greetings you thanked Darren Aronofsky.
Yes.
So can you tell us about that?
Well, I was very lucky to have some of my mentors, Darren Aronofsky and Mike Nichols and Terrence Malick watch the film and give me feedback, and that was really helpful to me. And each one had really great and helpful ideas. And of course, as a director, you always have to sort of take everything together. You know, you have to take the advice that is helpful, but also know when to leave it. When it's, even if it's a good idea, sometimes it's not yours. It stops being your piece. So it was really wonderful to have them each helping me.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other than Gambit, who was my favourite X-Man, Charles was my sort of second favourite X-Men. So